and welcome to a Gooner Ramble podcast. Joining me tonight is regular Callum. Callum, how are you doing?
I'm very good, mate. How are you?
I'm not too bad. Feel a bit unwell, under the weather, but I'll pull through. And then also we have a regular, and you know, people call him a special guest. He's a bit of both. It's Mark King. Mark, how you doing?
I'm alright, mate. Special needs, probably more than special guests.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be that cruel to you, Mark.
Okay, thank you, mate.
So we're coming back off I want to say flattering 3-1. I was sat there, and I ain't got no fingernails left now. It was nervy, it was edgy, things weren't going great. What did you make of the team first? I'll go to you, Mark. You were there as well, I assume?
Yes, I was, mate.
Good.
Yeah, I think it was certainly the team that I was hoping we would go with. Probably, I mean, Wenger obviously decided that Campbell and Ramsey were both okay to start, you know, given that they're only just back. Ox and Ramsey, rather, should I say. I was pleased that Campbell, you know, got a chance, because I think it's better to probably have a round peg in a round hole, and have a wide man out there. And Ramsey Flamini rather than Chambers would be what I would stick with. You know, I don't know. I think Chambers would probably be a little bit of a gamble at the moment. And I think yesterday was not a day for gambling. I think, as I probably said earlier in the week, yesterday was never going to really be about the performance. It was going to be about getting 3 points and getting ourselves, you know, steady the ship after 2 bad Premier League games and just get back on track and get some points on the board. Because I think, you know, we've all seen this weekend that we're still in it. Definitely still in it, and it seems to be the team that wants to throw it away less might win the league this year.
Mm-hmm. Very true. And Callum, what about yourself?
Well, unfortunately, it's getting to the point where the manager has very little selection decisions to make because, since last week, Cazorla out injured, Alexis out injured. So with, Ramsey and Oxlade-Chamberlain coming back, it kind of made sense just to put them in there. And, I think I expected a bit of rustiness from them because, Ramsey only had a quick run out and the Ox, and both players, who like to play at a high tempo and move the ball quickly, when they're not at the best, which they won't be when they first come back from injury, we're always going to be a bit off the pace. So, as Mark said, it was all about just getting the win because the results against West Brom and Norwich were just terrible after the good run we'd been on. And at this point in the season, with this many injuries, things like a really cohesive performance, I can give up on that as long as we actually get the win. And we got there in the end. That was all that mattered. But in terms of the team goes, I think we just kind of have to put out whoever's fit nowadays. And obviously we had Walcott back, which was good. But I think really when I saw the team, there was no surprise at all. And thankfully we managed to get there in the end with the players we had available.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I obviously like to pick the team beforehand and I tweet it out and stuff like that. The only thing that I had different was Gabriel instead of Koscielny, because I thought Koscielny with with that injury against Norwich the other week, I thought maybe we won't put him in, but thank God we did. I mean, Mark, obviously you were there with me, and we saw, you pretty much saw all the game and everybody else like they did on the TV and stuff. But he was playing centre back, right back, left back, water carrier, DM, weren't he, in those first couple of minutes? Oh, mate, he put in such a shift, didn't he? I was like, he's doing about 30 people's jobs here.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the key members of our best 11, and we really, really need the guy to stay fit and on form. To be honest, because I'm still quite worried about Per at times. With his lack of pace, I think his football intelligence only helps him make up for that so much, But there are times. It's twice now. Yesterday he did it with Watmore, and he did it last week with one of their fellas as well, where he basically gave up a ball because he knew he wasn't going to get there before the fella. So he kind of he realises he's got to give up and sort of drop off and try and drop into the space between the ball and the goal then. So I don't know, he's worrying me, but Koscielny is just he's an awesome player, and I think he's a real crowd favourite as well. I think everybody sort of loves him and wants to see him there for a long time to come.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about Mertesacker. Obviously, he was the one that got caught out for that Barini chance earlier on, and thank God Cech was there to sort of save the day as per usual. But you know what? You know, there was another few incidents in the game, and it was sort of sluggish, wasn't it? I mean, couldn't really string a pass together. I mean, people talk about Joel Campbell. Obviously, we'll get onto him a bit later on. But during the first half, when he was on the right-hand side, oh my days! I was like, we're the ones playing in red, Joel. He just couldn't string a pass together. And then you had Flamini sort of flying in and going to the ground, and then it bounced off his leg and go straight to a Sunderland player. And it just thought, you know, it's going to be one of these days. And then, thankfully, you know, Ozil, I called it Ozil at the Palladium yesterday. He just was head and shoulders above everybody on that pitch for me. What did you guys make of Ozil's performance?
Well, it's become the norm now, hasn't it? And you know, every time he plays that well, I just hope that people aren't taking it for granted, because it feels like, I mean, what's that? He's got 12 assists and 2 goals in 14 games in the league this season. I mean, he's just been phenomenal. And you know, with our big players out, with Alexis now out and Coquelin not in the team, we've become so reliant on him. And this is a player who was once, you know, not that long ago, was accused of coasting in this side, and now we're pretty much solely reliant on him to produce the goods. And yeah, you know, he did it again, and I think it was a game in which we really needed that little bit of something extra to get us over, because, you know, as you said, we started the game. You could tell from the start that we were a team that was on the feet a bit, on the knees a bit. I'm sorry, that had lost a bit of confidence. We weren't knocking the ball about with any particular urgency, and I thought before the game, I just can't. At the moment, it just feels like I can't see us comfortably beating any side at the moment. Every team we play, it's going to be a bit of a slog, and that's what it proved to be. You know, Sunderland, we saw last season were pretty decent, but yeah, so it was good. We got the win in the end.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, like I said, it was Ozil at the Palladium, and he really was. He was like pulling the strings like a tampon thief, and then gets his 10th assist in his last 9 games. And Joel Campbell, he moved to the left, and that's when he started performing. You know, what a finish as well. You know, he got quite slagged off for his celebration, which I don't understand. I'm like, you can celebrate whatever way you want, lad. If you score a goal, I mean, if I got picked for Arsenal and I scored, God knows what I'd do. So, I don't know about you guys. What did you think of the celebration? Did you think it was?
It looked originally like he was just tying up his shorts. I thought this is very strange.
Yeah, from the other end of the ground, you're like, oh, what's he doing? You know, but
cracking one off or something.
Well, you know, you just like really don't know what's going on, but I can understand why he's doing it. I'm assuming it's, you know, he's got a baby on the way or just had a baby.
Yeah,
whichever.
he just had a baby. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, good luck to the fella. I think it was interesting, like you say. I think they were struggling when Ox and Joel were on the sides they started on, and then when they swapped over, it got a little bit better. And certainly when you look at the goal, I mean, Ozil hasn't got a lot of time to pick out that pass. He takes one touch to control it, and then he plays the pass. And it's a great ball, but it is made by Joel, because you watch him, he's hanging off the shoulder of the last defender just before the ball comes into Ozil. Then he comes back on, and then he gets there again, and he knows where he wants it, and he starts to make the run, and Ozil sees him, and he knows, right, that's where I need to put the ball, and the ball was just perfect. And you know what, I mean, they had a similar chance towards the end of the game, which the guy blazed over. But Joel, thankfully, you know, he finished it really well. I think it looked like he slotted it between the keeper's legs. It was a good finish, and you know, I was pleased for him, because the crowd started, you know, some of the crowd started getting on his on his back, on the whole team's back, but they were certainly getting on Campbell's back a little bit early doors in the game.
Mm-hmm. I mean, to slot it under Pantilimon legs as well. He's like, fucking 6 foot fuck, isn't he? He's massive. So, yeah,
indeed. It definitely helped for both him and the Ox, I think, to be on the side, you know, the right foot player on the right, left foot player on the left. Mm-hmm. I think because when you've got 2 players that aren't quite in form or aren't quite fully fit, and I don't think either of them are particularly on fire at the moment. Obviously, the Ox has just come back. It's difficult, you know, to ask them to come in on, because if the Ox is on the left, if you're the right back, you know he's only ever going to go one way, that's inside, and suddenly he's running into trouble. You put him on the other side, kind of play back to basic wing play, and you know, in the end, I think that was helpful. You know, if that was Campbell on the other side having to cut in on, you know, on his right foot, he then probably would have looked to cut in on his left. But because he was on that left hand side, he didn't really have to think about it once he received the ball, which was obviously as ever, perfect from Özil. We just had to slot it under him, and it was a huge moment really, because I think up to that point we created very little, and I think we could all breathe a bit of sigh of relief when that went in. Obviously before we then conspired for a while. I mean, it was scary. The Giroud goal. I mean, it was. I was saying at the time, I couldn't believe it. Even though we weren't playing that well, we got the goal and we looked pretty comfortable. And it was the exact same as Norwich last week. We didn't look great, but we scored. And then we were looking comfortable. And then right before half time, we just gave them a sloppy goal. I mean, last week we actually had to make them shoot themselves, whereas this week we cut out the middleman and just knocked it in ourselves, which was just gutting. But I guess at least we responded, but it was pretty eerily similar how this first half went compared to last week, and I think shows that we're not quite ourselves at the moment, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was sitting in the West Stand, so I was a bit further away, but I don't know. I didn't hear Cech sort of shout or call for the ball. I just think just complete miscommunication, and then what a bad finish. To be fair. It was a good little own goal.
Classic Giroud, wasn't it?
Yeah, but that nice little front post, yeah. But just what a way to go into half time, really. I thought we were doing really well, and then it just sort of fizzled, and that's the way it is. But we come out second half, sort of trying to string some things together. It was going quite well, and then on the 63rd minute, nice little assist from Ramsey, who yesterday, Mark, I got the statistics here. The most passes completed yesterday, it was Aaron Ramsey with 112, Flamini with 102, Ozil with 82, and Monreal with 77. So the top four were all Arsenal players. So what did you make of Ramsey in that central role? Because I thought he struggled a bit, but he still got a goal and an assist, which he was shooting a bit more like he used to. Do you think it's his first game back in there, let him bed in, or were you a bit... Because a lot of people were really angry with his performance, but I sort of let him off. I was like, it's his first game back there, let him bed in, let him try and get used to things.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he did okay, particularly when you consider it's his first game back in central midfield. And with Rambo, he always needs a few games under his belt to get himself ticking over to the right level. So I thought he did okay. There were some people, I mean, if there were people who were saying like he was rubbish, then they don't know what they're on about. But there were some people that were saying, he was brilliant. And I think, the same thing. I'd say, look, let's not get carried away. I mean, as you said, Özil was different class yesterday. Ramsey did a good job. You can see why he likes playing there, because he can get involved a lot more. And I like the chance he had in the first half where he shot and he shot wide. I mean, that time 2-3 seasons ago they were flying in, and hopefully that will come. But yeah, it was a nice ball in. To be perfectly honest, Giroud was almost in exactly the same spot he'd scored the own goal.
Yeah.
And he did really well because the ball was at a very awkward height, so he knew he had to get down to get like his head on it. But huge credit for that goal to Monreal, because Monreal did really well in that goal, and he picked the ball up, came inside, drove between two players, went to play the 1-2 with Ramsey. I think Ramsey sort of like ignored the return pass and knocked the ball in for Giroud. So credit Nacho, who is just he's steadily becoming one of our players of the season beyond a doubt. But no, I thought Ramsey did okay. He did all right, and I think give him more games there, and hopefully he'll pick up the pace and he'll be sharper.
Well, I think with all the injuries, he's got to step up there, hasn't he? He's got to perform there, so hopefully he will. What about yourself, Callum? What did you make of Ramsey yesterday?
I think yesterday it was really, in 90 minutes, you saw some of the best and the worst things about Aaron Ramsey, for the last, well, especially since that amazing season he had, and he's not really quite found his feet again. As you said, it was his first game back, and it was his first game for a long time playing in that central midfield position. And there's certain things about his game that I really like, which was when he gets the ball, he always tries to drive on. And there was a couple of, I think that chance Mark alluded to in the first half came when he kind of burst through past a couple of players. And obviously with Cazorla, he's been occupying this deeper role. He doesn't quite have that burst. We don't see that quite as often. And Ramsey will always try that. I do think he will pick up assists and goals as he did yesterday. We're not even playing well because he always likes to get involved. And as we saw with the Giroud goal, he can hit in a good ball when he's on form. But, there is that issue where he loses the ball a lot. His decision making, I don't think, is as good as Cazorla's. And I think it's going to be tough for the team to adjust to not having Cazorla in that. I mean, we've gone from having Coquelin and Cazorla as our midfield pair for a long time to Coquelin and Cazorla them both being out for months now. So we're going to have to change the way we play. And Ramsey is not going to be as positionally disciplined as Cazorla was. I mean, I think one of the biggest successes of Cazorla in that deeper role was that he actually provided a lot of defensive cover. People often didn't realise that because he's a small guy. He's not a player you attribute with tackling and stuff, but he quite often was deeper than Coquelin. You know, he really did give us a bit of stability, and he put in a few tackles that perhaps we would never have expected him to do. But so with Ramsey, I think the issue is that when he's off form, he can be incredibly frustrating. I mean, he had that chance, didn't he, when Özil flicked it through to him, and he tried this acrobatic volley rather than if he just brought the ball down and looked up, he could have just slotted it in, but instead he went for the Hollywood option, and that's always going to be part of his game, unfortunately. And but as I said, yeah, it's early days. You've got to give him time to bed in, got to get him used to being into that position. And unfortunately, I think we are going to see the bad things of his game as well as the good ones in the weeks to come. But you know, we're going to have to adjust to it, and I do think, you know, he's a really important player for us, with or without the injuries, and hopefully he'll at least be able to find his goal scoring touch again, and will be a big player for us. But it's going to be different with him in the middle than it has been with Cazorla, that's for sure. And I think Wenger certainly prefers it with Cazorla.
Yeah, I mean, he had a brilliant chance as well towards the end of the game before he scored his goal. He was one-on-one and he just smacked it straight at Pantilimon, and he just thought, Ramsey. Well, it was one of them days, wasn't it? But
you feel bad for Özil because he's got 12 assists this season, which I think is 6 more than anyone else. But he should have had 3 yesterday, or at least 2. I mean, to be fair to Ramsey, he was on his, he probably should hit with his weaker foot. His left foot was the better one, but he kind of had to poke it with his right. And you know, the goal he got at the end, it took a bit of luck because the ball deflected in, but you know, he gambles, doesn't he, Ramsey, and he does get a few goals that way. So
yeah, they all count.
Yeah, I mean, it was. Hopefully he'll find his goal scoring touch and before long, but he does get in the positions a lot of the time, which is encouraging, I suppose.
That's the thing with Ramsey, like we've always said on the countless podcasts that we've done about he's one of these form players, and when he scored against Watford, I thought, here we go, he's back in business. Then he got injured again, and you just have to wait. I hope now that he's got one again and he's playing where he wants to play. Like, you know, we talk a lot about when players get injured, the people that come in for them don't step up enough, and hopefully he does, because the talent's there. You know, we all know the talent's there, so hopefully he can just showcase it.
Well, hopefully it will show a lot about his character, because he's been saying for some time that he would rather be in the middle than out on the right. And and he's been given a perfect opportunity with Cazorla out for a long period. Wilshere and Rosicky still, whenever we're going to see them again, I have no idea. So that position's his to make his own. And, in 2013-14, the idea of dropping Ramsey from that position seemed unfathomable, but then obviously with Cazorla coming in last year, Ramsey's had to spend months out on the right. So yeah, you can only hope that he looks at this opportunity as one that's there for the taking, and because of that, we see a more focused player, a more committed player, and a player that actually starts performing close to the level we know he can play at.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll talk quick just about some of the subs yesterday. What did you guys make of the subs? For me, they're a bit strange. This whole...
I still have no idea where Chambers was playing.
This whole Louis Gibbo experiment, trying to make him a winger. I still don't get this. Walcott, I understood. I thought he'd come on, he did well. But then, yeah, like you said, Chambers, I thought, okay, is he going to move Ramsey right now and have Chambers and Flamini together and sort of have Flamini more as the runabout, or one that bombs forward a bit and tries to get a goal? But no, he stuck Chambers out right, and it was like we had 2 right backs. It was weird, wasn't it, Mark? Yeah.
Well, we've seen it over the last few seasons that in certain games, at certain points, he will try and shore up the wide areas by bringing on the reserve fullback and sticking him in front of the first choice fullback, just to try and give a little bit more cover there. And particularly, given that most of the time our fullbacks can get forward, it kind of can work with Gibbs. I was disappointed that he started with Gibbs in a recent game in that position, but I think he can come on and do it. And certainly, I don't mind seeing it when it's a good sub to give somebody a bit of a breather, because one thing Gibbs will give you is he will give you pace, and he will keep going. So I don't mind it with Gibbs. The Chambers one was I found a little bit more odd because Chambers, he's not really going to give you that going forward. Yes, he's, of a defensive mindset, so he's going to be a bit more solid and help Bellerin out. But I just thought it was just a bit of a wasted opportunity, to be fair.
He had a good little move though, didn't he? He popped out a few step overs, and I thought, oh, hello.
I was in fits of laughter. I just thought, what is happening?
He got a bit champagne Callum, didn't he?
He received the ball on the edge of the area and just thought, I've never been here before. And then he tries to dummy it onto his left foot. I think they showed a great clip. They cut to Oxlade-Chamberlain on the bench just after that, and he's absolutely pissed himself laughing. And then he has a shot at the left foot.
Yeah,
but, I think it really. I got nothing against Chambers. I think he's a good player, but
it was quite. It's a very defensive move.
Yeah. But we got no options at the moment. I mean, he puts Iwobi on the bench, but it feels like almost like a token move. I mean, he's always going to bring on. He just brings on Walcott, which was a good decision, and then he'll bring on two defenders in attacking positions. And I think a lot of that, it shows two things. It shows one, first of all, how struggling, how we really are struggling in attacking positions in terms of depth, and it also shows that Wenger was nervous enough at 2-1. Thought, right, we need to just shut up shop now. We're not going to try and kill them off. We're just going to try and see this out because
we still gave up that chance, didn't we? The one that was very similar to Joel Campbell's goal. We still gave up that chance late on. I think that was before we got the third goal. So it's kind of like, well, even when we are trying to shut up shop and make sure we're not giving any chances, we still bloody managed to do it somehow. So.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, Monreal's always a solid player, and he had a great game. But then towards the end, you remember it hit his chest or whatever, and Cech had to bobble and get it. I was like, oh my days, wakey.
No, Nacho was all over that, mate. He knew what he was.
Yeah, I mean, there was definite. The commentator made a lot of it on my stream I was watching, but he chested it down away from the goal, and I think just because Flamini had nearly done the same thing in the first half, and we always have a ridiculous goal in us. We know that a good goal against us, of course. That you can always see it. I mean, remember the one against Swansea a couple of seasons ago? Where Flamini knocked it in the last minute, ran on. I think he made a tackle and it ended up going in or something utterly ridiculous like that.
Yeah,
and the last 2-3 games were on our mind. And but it comes back. We were talking before the podcast about Cech. I mean, Özil was I think the man of the match yesterday, but Cech was just. All the nervousness that was in the stadium, the squad was full of players. They were out of form or just came back from injury. And Cech, was just that safe pair of hands that we really, really needed. Mark was saying before the pod about, how when players like Barini and Watmore were bearing down on goal, just having Cech in there, I think it puts that seed of doubt in strikers' minds that they have to think, I've got to hit this really well to beat Cech. Whereas a lot of keepers, you would just hit the ball and you're more likely to score, I think, because you're just instinctive trying to hit the target. But that hesitation, I think, was clear. And, of course, he made the save from Fletcher at the back post. And, again, with that Monreal knockdown, Cech read it. He knew what he was doing. And even though he didn't make a huge amount of flashy saves, I think just his whole presence is so incredibly important at times like this. We've got Özil in the attack who's saying to everyone else, look, I'll put the ball on the plate for you. Don't worry, I'm going to deliver, right? Which is hugely important for us. But then we've also got Cech, who is kind of amongst all the nervousness, which we always have when we're on a bad run. He's there just saying, look, I've got this. Chill out. We'll be fine. I'll save it. I'll save things. Unless, Giroud, you're going to knock it in the net. I'll save from everyone else, all right? Giroud scored the own goal. Flamini nearly scored an own goal. And then Nacho had that knockdown. I mean, Cech must have thought, bloody hell. Come on, boys. Help me out here. But his presence, I think, there's been games where we've seen those world-class saves and just thought, wow. But to be honest, I think games like yesterday showed his importance in a very different way. But that leadership and that, it just makes everyone calm down a little bit. And it was, you do think that unless they hit a ridiculous strike, he's going to pull out a save. And I think after Özil, he was our best player, most important player, most vital player in the win yesterday, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he won the BBC Man of the Match. I know that much. I checked that earlier. So
begrudge him that, even though I sort of deserved it, but still.
No, definitely. Was there anything else you wanted to touch upon, Mark, about Cech or anyone else?
No. I think Callum's just summed that up very nicely. I think players, as we said, when they're bearing down on goal and Cech's there, it's different from bearing down on Szczesny. And that can make the difference. It's the small things like that makes the difference between a striker putting it in the corner and maybe hitting it at the keeper a little bit more.
And I'm convinced, it's not even your Duncan Watford's of the world either. I mean, I think in the Bayern game when we won, I think even Lewandowski, a couple of his chances, that was when he was on that crazy run of form. Cech made a couple of fantastic saves from him, and I think that even the best strikers, I think that's one of the reasons why Neuer is so successful as well, is that whenever you're up against Neuer, his size and his presence and reputation, that all comes into the players' thinking, even if it's subconscious. I think you can't help but be aware of it. And there's only a very select few keepers in the world that have that, and we're very lucky to have one of them with us, because we'd be a lot worse off without him. I don't know how many points you can accumulate to him now. I mean, remember when John Terry said we must be getting close to double figures now in terms of points, because there's been a lot of games where he's really, really saved our asses, and this was another one, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'll just touch on it quick before the old listeners' questions. But a man arrived in the Emirates yesterday. He got out of the medical room. It seems he's been there for ages. Jan Villa. He finally got to play at the Emirates. What did you guys make of him? Do you think we saved some good money there? Or
there was a moment where he shot, and I'm not joking, my heart literally sank just thinking that's going top corner. Like, I just thought it just is the most Arsenal thing to ever happen ever. The player that's people have been joking about his medical taking 3 seasons or whatever. I just thought he's going to fucking score, isn't he? And he had a decent game, and I wouldn't stop him for Coquelin for certain, but he's actually able to play, so I suppose that's good. But no, I was just relieved he didn't score, because I felt like that was definitely going to happen at some point.
Yeah, my nightmare was him or Adam Johnson scoring. That was like the thing that I was like, oh please God, like if there is a god of football, just anyone but them two. Yeah, But anyway, I'll move on quickly to the old listeners' questions here. Let me just get them up. There we go. And we got one here from Wengerholic. It's a bloody good question, actually. He says, would you buy Jack Butland this summer, sell Szczesny, Ospina, and perfect Cech replacement when ready? So, what do you guys make of that? For me, I think Jack Butland, even though how good of a keeper he is, I don't think he'd want to sit on a bench. So, for me, personally, I don't think we'd do it. I'd have him, but I think now he's at a level where he had to wait behind Begovic. He's finally got a breadth in the game, and he's pushing for that England first spot as well.
Yeah, so, I think that's spot on. I think the guy is he's playing every week, which is at the Premier League level, for the first time, and he's proven his worth. And I think if he's looking at his career, he does that for another couple of seasons at Stoke before one of the big clubs snaps him up. I don't think he'd probably go to one of the big clubs now to sit on the bench. I mean... well,
if you look at it, De Gea's eventually going to leave Man United. He's already in Stoke. It pretty much, you put 2 and 2 together, didn't you? So
yeah, I think it's a situation that I would expect would work out along those lines.
I think it's also got to the point on another. I think I agree completely with what Mark's saying about, and you, James, about him not wanting to move. And people often say, well, we're the Arsenal and we're a top, blah, blah, blah. When you're playing regularly for a top half Premier League side, and as a goalkeeper, because it's not like you can, if you play on an attacking position, you can perhaps be fit in somewhere else. He can only ever play in goal. Why would you move? Especially now he's England's number 2. He's actually looks like he might be able to put some pressure on Hart. There's no reason why you would move at all. And another thing I think as well is that I think the days of, quite often, I mean, one of the example I'm about to say that always sticks out is Scott Parker going to Chelsea from Charlton about 10 years ago, which was then a player at a smaller Premier League club had a great first half of the season, and a big club would go and pick them up for 10 million or so. And that would be, and then that kind of thing happening. And you look at guys in this season that have done that. Look at Mahrez, for example. 10 years ago, I think you could probably go and give less than 10 million, if that, and they'd accept it. Nowadays, if you want to get Mahrez, you've got to pay 30, 40 million. The Premier League clubs are so rich nowadays that to get these players that are really performing for these smaller clubs, even the big clubs have got to pay crazy money. I think same with Butland. Stoke, what price tag would they put on him? I mean, we probably are looking at 30, 40 million.
Well, he's English, so it'd be 50.
He's a young English goalkeeper who, and the money that all the Premier League clubs have now means that you just don't need to sell unless it's an extortionate price.
And that's only going to get worse next year.
Exactly. It's just going to continue going up and up. So I just think I think from now on, we're just going to see players, we're going to see more and more just buying from abroad because that's where the value is, especially mid-season. If you look at players moving in this January, players moving within the Premier League to other Premier League clubs, it'll be loans, or players who aren't getting enough game time, that kind of thing. I can't see any of the smaller sides accepting. I mean, what was it last year? Shane Long went from like 12 million to Southampton, something ridiculous. So he'd only been bought by Hull, I think, just before. It's just the inflation in the league is just crazy at the moment. So players like Butland would just have such a huge price on their head that we just wouldn't be able. There would be no value in it. And again, the player would be mad to leave Stoke at the moment.
I mean,
so
when Cech eventually goes, I'd be all over it, but he'd probably be somewhere else by then. But I just feel like you said at the moment, I think Szczesny's probably going to go. I think Ospina's probably going to go. So. You either, we've got Martinez out on loan. I know we've got a few good young keepers apparently, so you either push them up or we look elsewhere to a younger keeper. I can't really think off the top of my head another good young keeper out there really that I'd say.
Well, I think
would sit on the bench.
Spina will probably leave. I think he probably wants to leave, and he has no real affinity with Arsenal, so he probably thinks, well, why am I second choice? What's in it for him really? I mean, I think he at his age as well, he'll be wanted playing regularly. So I think he'll leave. With Szczesny, I mean, if he wants to come back and be second choice, I'm not hugely averse to that. I'm not a huge fan of the guy, but I think as a second choice goalkeeper, he'd be pretty decent. But otherwise, I think it's too early to be thinking about Cech's replacement as well. I think he's got a good few years in him yet.
Yeah.
But we'll need to get someone in, I think, if Spina leaves or get Szczesny back. But Butland certainly isn't a realistic option, I think.
Mm-hmm. Although we'd love him though, but yeah, as you say,
I'd definitely take him. I mean, he's a fantastic keeper. He's one of the best in the league this year. But for the reasons we've just said, it's just not a realistic option, I think.
Yep. And we've got a question here from Kevin, who's at Just Nivek. He's put, do you think the current team is our best since 2007, or just getting better results? Mark, I'll let you shoot on that first.
Well, I'm kind of a bit confused about the just getting better results because I'm not sure we actually are. I mean, the team in 07-08 sort of did very, very well and was a great team to watch. Played some beautiful football. It was probably the best football that I'd seen us play, that side, better than they do now. So I don't know. I just think we probably had better options up front. We had Eduardo, Adebayor was playing well. Van Persie was there, Walcott was there. So I certainly think in terms of strikers, we probably had better options. So I don't know. Is it the best since then? We're heading that way, but we're in this sort of, are we always in this cycle where we're sort of two players away from, the best side we've had since 04? And all that happens is every couple of years the positions in which those two players play changes. So I don't know. And also really it's our biggest problem is the fitness and the injuries, and we know at the end of the day our best 11 will compete with any other team in the world, and I mean any other team in the world. We can compete with Bayern, we can compete with Barcelona, certainly in a one-off game. So, if we were playing Barcelona or Bayern Munich in the Champions League final with our best 11 players, I'd say, you know what, we've got a chance. The problem is we cannot keep those best 11 players on the pitch because we're losing them, and it's happening season after season after season. And this is what's causing us more problems than anything else that I might moan at Wenger about is buying players in or anything like that. The injury situation is causing us more problems than any of the other things.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, you talk about Eduardo there, I just get upset because the potential that guy had. He could finish all of them, right foot, left foot, volleys, headers. He was just an absolute machine. I loved Eduardo. It's tragic what happened to him. He was so good. So good. But the one thing I will say that I think is better than the team of 07 is the unity. Because obviously, Gallas, all right, say what you want about him, but he was a bit of a shitbag, weren't he? Adebayor, we all know, definite shitbag. So I think these lot all get along well, which is good. Like I said before the podcast, I think we need someone to rattle them a bit. I think we talk about these. It's the two players. If I could do my Elvis Presley, and if I can dream, we'll sign these two players we need, and hopefully one of them will just be one of them who can sort of give them a bit of a kick up the arse. I think the team need that.
I think
sometimes.
That's right. I think I agree with you. There are times where you do think there's perhaps a little bit of lack of bottle, but I do think we've quietly assembled a lot more leaders. I do think Mertesacker is a fantastic captain when he plays. Arteta has an influence off the pitch, perhaps, because he's never bloody on it, because he's either not good enough or he's injured. Cech, as I've spoken about already, Coquelin is, I think, the way he plays is like he displays leadership qualities in that way. Yeah. Gabriel looks absolutely mental, so I think he's that kind of unknown fact, a bit like Keown, I think, but in a Brazilian version of that. So I do think there's a lot of characters in the squad that are, and of course of that way inclined, and of course Alexis is just the way he plays is with such drive and intensity and passion. That again, that's a kind of leadership in a different way. I mean, a lot of the players have spoken about how they see Alexis, the way he puts himself about. And if you see that with your teammate doing that, I just think you're going to feel guilty if you're not putting in as much effort. It's inspiring in a very different way. So I actually think this squad is the best we've had since the Invincibles. But as Mark said, it's getting them all fit. I mean, I think, as we've said about Cech, best keeper since Lehmann, perhaps even better than him, best since Seaman, which is prior to the Invincibles. I think finally we've got 3 good centre-backs to choose from, which is the first time in a while we can say that. I think Monreal is the best fullback we've had since Ashley Cole on that left side. In the midfield, you've got Özil and Alexis are 2 genuinely world-class players. I mean, the way Özil has been playing recently, is there a better playmaker in the world than him? I don't know. Not this season, I don't think. And I think there is when everyone's fit, we've got some genuine depth, but Rosicky, Welbeck and Wilshere won't kick a ball till 2016.
Giroud yesterday, you're talking about the players at the moment. Giroud yesterday, slag him off for all he's worth. Mm-hmm. I don't think he did, apart from his goal, I don't think he did much, but he's got 38 goals since the 2013-14 season. Only Aguero's got more. Mm-hmm. So he just sees that guy, isn't he, where he can have the worst game ever, but he will still score like 1 or 2. Well, he just pops up, doesn't he?
Giroud had a game. I think what was so important is that Walcott's back, because Giroud is a player that will do well in spurts, but once he gets to a certain point in terms of fitness and freshness, or a lack of, he'll drop off, and we've begun to see that. I think when you ask him to play every game, we're at that season we had 2 years ago when we only had Bentner as backup and Sonogo, and of course the difference in quality between them and Giroud was quite big. So Giroud was playing every week pretty much. There was games where he just looked absolutely shattered, and inevitably his form dropped off. And then we saw early in the season when Walcott was playing, Giroud was fresh, coming off the bench and making an impact. And the issue Giroud has, I think, and always has been, is that he was the direct successor to Van Persie. And prior to Van Persie, we had Bergkamp, we had Henry. We had some really genuinely world-class players in that position, and suddenly we've got Giroud, who, for all his qualities, will never be of that level. And unfortunately for him, he will always suffer in comparison to those players. So what Giroud is a fantastic second choice. If we had Giroud when that year when Van Persie scored 30 goals, if we had Giroud as our backup rather than Shamak, we'd think what a fantastic backup to have. If Van Persie needs to rest or we need to rotate for a game, you felt like Giroud would do a job. What Giroud isn't is the player to score us the goals in the very biggest moments or create a goal out of nothing. He's not that player. What he is good is if you give him a chance like he had yesterday, he'll take it, which he did more often than not. He headed very well.
I think you hit the nail on the head though when you said about Walcott being back, and hopefully it'll be the same when Danny's back as well. Is that when he's got competition, the last few weeks we did have a recognisable centre forward option on the bench, so he can just he can play his languid football because he knows there's no one else that's going to take me off, or there's.
I don't think it's even an attitude problem though. Some people have said that, and I do think obviously with any player you put competition in there, but I don't think when Walcott's injured he thinks, I can just chill, I'm not going to get dropped. I think it really is just a fitness thing, and he is a player who looks so sluggish when he's off the pitch, but when he's fit and when he's fresh, he looks really good. So
I mean, yeah, and to Callum's point, I think people sometimes forget Giroud's a big lad, and he probably does put in quite a fair amount of work because he plays as that sort of one man up front, so he's doing a lot of closing down. And yes, he can, I think, with his body language sometimes he looks like he's not trying, or he looks a bit lazy, but he's a big lad and he gets, he has to drag that frame up and down the pitch all day long. So, and when you do that over a consistent amount of time, and you're also in the Premier League, you're also getting kind of a lot of physical pressure off of your centre halves. You're getting whacked a lot of the time. And yes, he can. He needs to be a little bit stronger than he is, and that. And instead of giving it the old Nescafe with his hand every time he gets hurt, I think people need to bear that in mind as well. That it's not always easy to drag that size of a frame around as much as it is for someone like Theo or for Alexis to sprint around so much.
And the thing is with Giroud as well, he'll always have two centre halves on him, and both of those centre halves will know that Giroud ain't beating them for pace, so they can afford to push up, get right on him. And you're completely right. He does at times his histrionics become tiresome and frustrating, and when we see him lash out like he did against Zagreb and get sent off, you just think you're an idiot. And he is an idiot, and he often acts like an idiot. But as you said, I think a lot of the time the task he does is it's a thankless one. You're asking him to lead the line, to provide for other people, to battle for headers and stuff. And there will be games. I think yesterday he struggled because he was isolated, and I think that happens when we've really in the whole attack. Özil is the only player on form. He's been playing regularly. You've got Campbell, who I don't think is anything special. The Ox and Ramsey, who does back from injury. You got Flamini, who's doing back heels in the box and stuff. But again, it's kind of when we haven't got that cohesive midfield behind Giroud, he does suffer because there isn't the balls being whipped into him. There aren't players finding him with ease and stuff. And look, he made a mistake for the goal, and he got one chance in the second half, and he took it. And that's all you can really ask for, I think, yesterday. And he redeemed himself. Didn't play fantastically well, but he got his goal, and which won us the game in the end. So. Credit to him, but I'm very happy and very relieved that Walcott is back to offer us something else, and hopefully the pair of them will stay fit, be able to give each other breaks until at least Welbeck comes back at some point in the next few years. I hope. But yeah.
Yeah, well, we've just got two more questions, then we'll do the prediction for Olympiacos and wrap it up. But we've got a question here from, I thought my Twitter handle was good, but this guy's gone for it. He's called Shecky Nando's lad, which I think is fantastic. That's what they say.
Man after your own heart.
I'm a bit of a pun slinger myself, so to have that's fantastic. But he's put, this January, if offered Key or Wanyama, what one would you pick and why? Well, it's quite easy for me, although I do like both, being a Celtic fan as well. They're both ex-Celtic boys, but it's easy for me to pick. I'll let you guys crack on first.
Well, to me, it would be Wanyama. I think Key's a great player, but he's very similar to a lot of the other midfielders that we've got. Whereas Wanyama is more of a dedicated defensive midfielder, and I think that's the position where we've only got one very, very good one, currently injured, one over the hill, pointy shouty one, and one relic. So for me, it would be Wanyama.
I'd probably be in agreement. I think more so because of Wanyama's quality. I think he is a better player than Key, but I think a player like Key, but just he probably isn't of the right quality. But his style of play, which he does often play as a holding midfielder, but he's very good at distributing the ball. He's got a keen eye for a pass. I think a player like him, when we have Arteta in there, but before he was a relic, a few years ago, there was a lot of value to his play, which he recycled possession very well, in a way that perhaps Wanyama isn't able to do. And I think it would be good because, in the summer, of course, there was a lot of talk over bringing someone in to play with Coquelin or play instead of Coquelin. And if you get a player that can play instead of him in a defensive role, but also be able to play alongside him because he's good, better with the ball, it would be a really good player. Someone like Rabiot at PSG, I really like the look of it. He looks capable of moving the ball about, but he's a physical lad as well. So I do like Key's style of play, but I just don't think he's quite good enough for us. Whereas someone like Wanyama, of course, with Coquelin's injury as well, Wanyama would be a good player for us, if only because he can get himself about, make a tackle, and get up and down the pitch in a way that perhaps Flamini and certainly Arteta can't do anymore. So if we do buy a defensive midfielder, I'd like to be aiming higher than both of those. But if we did buy Wanyama, I wouldn't be too upset either. I think he'd be a good option.
Yeah, well, it's a full house, so I'd have had Wanyama as well. I mean, you summed it up perfectly. Key is like Arteta when we first signed him. Great little ball player, set piece specialist, can do this, can do that. But with Coquelin out, I think we need an enforcer, and Wanyama is just like Coquelin in the fact that if he has to, he'll put his foot in. Do you know what I mean? That's what we need, I think.
I would like to say that sorry, Mark, but I want to say that.
Go on, carry on.
Is that actually, even though we give him stick, Flamini I think has actually been pretty decent the last two or three games.
He had a good game yesterday.
He did. He was all right. I think even against Norwich last week he played very well. He does go for a bit of a run occasionally and get caught out of position, but I think he's been doing a decent enough job. I mean, obviously replacing Coquelin, he was never going to be as good as Coquelin has been, but I think for the most part he's been functional. He's been relatively solid. And even though he did lose the ball a couple of times yesterday, he hasn't done something truly calamitous just yet. Although I do worry between here and January keeping him fit, because I do not want to see Arteta in the team ever, really. I think just because his legs have gone, his confidence is shot. And Flamini, whilst far from being ideal, is a better option than Arteta, and hopefully can keep doing a serviceable job between now and whenever Coquelin's back, or if we get someone else in.
I think you hit the nail on the head there when you say he's doing a functional job, and I think that's about as good as we can be to him at the moment. The problem is that when we're playing higher opposition than some of the games lately, we're going to require something more than functional. And the other problem is, as you say, is him playing all these games, because there isn't really another option at the moment. Going back to that, what you were saying about that, rumours are that Rabiot might be available on loan in January.
Well, I heard that he's asked as a Christmas present for PSG to let him go. It's a bit strange because he was complaining about not getting enough first-team football, and then he signed a new 5-year deal with PSG, and then he's still complaining about not getting enough first-team football. So I guess the thing with the loan deal is that you can get him in. Yeah. With everyone talks about how difficult it is to buy players in January, but if you got him in for loan, then you don't have to worry about all you can deal with that the summer if he's good enough, but you still get an option in the short term, which we really, really need. I haven't seen a huge amount of him, but when I have watched him on BT, he does look like he's good with the ball at his feet, but he is, I think, like 6'3", so he's a physical guy as well.
I know
he looks just like a player that Wenger would be interested in.
Yeah, Wenger's been interested in him in the past, but I think his mum is his agent, and she makes Jorge Mendes look like a nun. So,
so I remember reading about this in the summer when we were linked with him and whoever else. But there's always something, isn't there? That
you don't mess with the mums, mate.
Well, apparently he's said positive things about Arsenal in the past, but all this transfer nonsense, I can't stand it. It's only beginning of December, but I think.
Well, if you don't like it now, Callum, it's only going to get worse, mate. So
I know, but I do think if he is available on loan, it's pretty much a perfect thing for us, because we don't have to. Wenger doesn't have to shell out big money on a player he's not sure about, but we do have someone better than Arteta and Flamini to do something when Coquelin's out. So it seems like a no-brainer, but with that in mind, it will definitely not happen. Yeah. as so often the case.
And then the last question here is from @Touch of Alexis. He goes, "Who do you think Arsene Wenger's replacement will be? I can't pick between Pep, Ancelotti, or Simeone." Mark, I know that you're a glowing reference for Arsene Wenger, and so I'll go to you first.
I can't think of a better man to lead the French national team after this year's Euros. I don't know. I was reading his question. Does he say is he saying he can't pick between them, or we can't pick one of those three? I'm not too sure.
I think he's saying he can't pick.
I think he's suggesting those.
Right. I mean,
if it's the second way round, I can't think of a manager that would be good enough.
Well, I think
for me personally,
looking at those three he's mentioned, Ancelotti I think would be good. I wouldn't complain if we got him. He seems a bit like, in the way that Van Gaal is compared. I know we had Moyes in between, but Van Gaal after Fergie, Van Gaal is a big enough name to be able to do his own job without the whole Fergie, the spectre of Fergie after 26 years looming over him. I think whoever succeeds Wenger has to be a big name, because I think you bring in someone who doesn't have the reputation. They don't have the confidence, they don't have the confidence perhaps, and the press won't have the confidence, the fans won't have the confidence in them. Van Gaal, for example, can make certain decisions. I mean, I know at the moment they're playing pretty dour football, but because of his track record, I think he can impose his own style on a team without the scrutiny that perhaps Moyes got, because Moyes was succeeding Fergie and was the direct comparison. With us, I think, Ancelotti would be a safe pair of hands for a few years, but I think the dream signing is Pep. But I have long thought and maintain that as soon as he becomes available, even if, first of all, we have to hope that when he becomes available, Wenger leaves. Wenger's not going to go anywhere this summer, and Pep will probably leave Bayern this summer. Which means that, first of all, we're not even going to be looking for a new manager when he becomes available, in all likelihood. Even if Wenger were to leave this summer, or if perhaps Pep stays for a bit longer at Bayern and then leaves when Wenger does, I'm convinced that City will drop whoever they have in charge, whether it's Pellegrini or whoever else they get, to get Guardiola. I mean, they have been dedicating they've brought in those directors from Barcelona.
Yeah.
I think they gave Pellegrini a new contract because they couldn't keep him on and not give him a new deal as some sort of show of confidence. And he knows it as well, but he thinks, well, even if they get rid of me, I've just signed a new deal, so I'm going to get paid off. And in that time, I'm just going to keep managing. So I think as soon as Guardiola becomes available, City will do everything they can to get him, and we won't get him because of that reason.
What do you guys think of? I've seen several people sort of put forward this theory that if Pep Guardiola became available, that Wenger knows that Pep Guardiola would be the best follow-on for him, and therefore Wenger might step down or step back to ensure that the club got Guardiola at the time Guardiola was available.
That's no chance. I think Wenger has done a lot for Arsenal and often puts the club ahead of his own personal. Like, for example, pushing forward with the Emirates at a time when we were on top of the. I mean, obviously at the time he didn't know about Abramovich and all that, and this is a debate you could spend an hour talking about. But I do think Wenger has often put the club at the forefront of his mind. I do not think that he would step aside at a time where he didn't want to leave to let Guardiola come in, because there probably wouldn't even be agreement for it. And I don't particularly see why. We might all think Guardiola is the best option, and Wenger might even think that as well. But I just doesn't seem in his nature. So
deep down, I believe that he wants to go longer than Fergie. I think he wants to be at a club longer than Ferguson, which scares me in a way. No, it scares me.
I think
depresses me.
The Wenger thing, because I've said, my position on this season has been that after 2 FA Cups and after the improvements we've made to the squad, as long as we seriously challenge for the title this season, I would be happy to back him. I don't agree with a hell of a lot of things he does, but if we're up there come May, I think, for the next step for us after the FA Cup was to actually make a serious title challenge for the first time in years. I'm not going to say we have to win the league, because I think with City and Chelsea, and I know Chelsea having a horrible season, but okay, City and United, they're richer clubs than us, they're bigger clubs than us in terms of resources. We have no divine right to win the league, but I do think we should be seriously challenging, and that means not collapsing in April or whenever. It means really challenging. But at the same time, when you look at, I know Liverpool lost today, but having Klopp at Liverpool and that excitement they have with a new manager, I can't help but feel some kind of jealousy about that when you see a manager of that caliber come into your club and be able to. It just feels like if we do get a manager of that caliber, and whenever Wenger does step aside, there's going to be a galvanizing effect. They're going to just that freshness that we've not had because we've had the same manager for so long. But I do worry.
There'll also be a lot of fear as well.
There will be another. I think there will be, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if we struggle in the immediate aftermath, like United have. They've spent record numbers of amount of money on players since Ferguson left, but finished 7th first season, 4th last season. This season don't look,
because we know the media will be quite happily waiting for things to go wrong.
But I think
to use their broken cannons that they haven't maybe used much of late, and there'll be I still think that the problems that we've got within our fan base at the moment will carry on over into Wenger's replacement, and that there will still be battle lines drawn, and there will still be people, that will be picking out on the manager if he's not doing well. So it's going to be a very, very difficult time, and it's a little bit scary. But as you've said, it's also, I find the whole groundhog stuff that we go through quite tedious and boring. So something exciting might just be good for that reason.
To be honest, there is when we look especially over the last few weeks, or even since the summer, with the very few signings made and the injuries that have come since, and the games that we've underperformed in this year, there is the Groundhog Day thing. It's completely true, and it is maddening. But again, we are 2 points off the top. We're ahead of United, ahead of City, so it's difficult really at the moment. I'm not really quite sure how to feel, but when I see Klopp being unveiled at Liverpool and this talk of Guardiola today going to City, I mean, I've been saying for a long time that my 2 dream managers would have been Guardiola and then Klopp if we had them available. I mean, Klopp, he's not going to be available. I'm convinced Pep's going to go to City whenever he decides to leave because they will do everything they can to get him. And I don't see Simeone leaving Atletico to come for us. But, these names that we've had mentioned, I mean, he is Atletico through and through. And to be honest, Atletico are a bigger and better club than us at the moment in terms of their recent success, So whenever he does step aside, it's going to be, I don't think there's a really outstanding candidate. Again, it comes down so much to who's available when, whenever it could even be Mourinho. He could have left Chelsea by then, and he could be looking for a job.
I can't see that happening.
Can you imagine?
Wash your mouth out with soap and water.
Guys, I do not want this to happen. Believe me, I want nothing. I hope he gets sacked from Chelsea and has to run, with his tail between his legs.
You think Jose Mourinho will answer to that board? No chance. No. He'll be out in a week. He'll take one look at that and go, fuck off. Walk straight out the door.
I do think Mourinho's ego, though. Can you imagine if we'd be able to take over from Wenger? Yeah, I mean, that's something. We're talking in fantasy land here, but
I think he'll be at Man United before he goes to Arsenal.
Well, yeah, I think my long-term worries really is that, I mean, I don't want Wenger sacked right now, but I'm not hugely filled with confidence that we're going to win the league this season. I think we can. I think we're in with a shout, and I think we will challenge, which I think will be a good season for us if we can get right up there genuinely to the last couple of match days. If we're actually in a serious shout, that wouldn't have been a huge disaster. But I do worry that whenever he does step aside, that the really top managers will be gone. And I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's exactly what you say. It's about availability at the time. And I think the problem is that Wenger he'll never get sacked. Yeah. So, next summer he's got one more year left. If Guardiola goes to City, that's going to be a major pain in the arse. Klopp's already off the list. Ancelotti will be back in the game, but he will probably find a job in the summer of 2016,
even Ancelotti,
so he'd then be off the list.
He's never had huge periods of success domestically. He won 2 Champions Leagues with Milan, which obviously cannot be ignored. But there's doubts about Ancelotti. I mean, he is. I think, to be honest, he wouldn't be a bad appointment, and we could do a hell of a lot worse. But when you look at Pep, when you look at Klopp and what he's doing at Liverpool now, I mean, in terms of he's the type of character. And he has a very different style of play to Wenger that I think would be the perfect antidote, because what you don't want is a player who wants to play in a similar way to Wenger, I think, because then it becomes just some kind of lesser version of it, or, it looks like he's copying him. They have to have their own identity as a manager, a different way of playing. And I think that's what Klopp would have been absolutely perfect. And even though, again, when Klopp was appointed Liverpool manager, I wasn't saying we should sack Wenger and get Klopp, but when he went, I was genuinely disappointed, because I thought, well, that's a guy.
If you look at Klopp, look what he's doing now with the dross that he's got. You imagine in January and in this next summer when he buys the players he wants, he'll turn him into a force, and that's scary because Liverpool fans are the most annoying set of bastards I know.
I do think that I think this season it's between us and the Manchester clubs. People are talking up Tottenham and Liverpool, and it was fantastic to see both of them get the win, take out the sales a bit this weekend. Because
you're not rating Leicester then?
No, I rate Leicester a lot. I mean, I don't know what.
I was going to say, chat shit, get banged, mate. Don't slag them off.
I was in a pub last Saturday watching that game against United, and everyone cheered when Vardy scored. And I'm very happy for him, very happy for the club. I got family from Leicester, so it's I'm really happy. I've always had a bit of a soft spot for them. But
I like Vardy. I just don't think he'd like me if he met me. So
I don't think he likes. Well, you're not Japanese, so you probably would.
I'm from a lot of different places. My family's quite mixed. So I don't think he'd get along with me too well. So
look, I think Leicester. Look, if Leicester are still at the top come after Christmas, after that busy period, then fair enough. But if they get injuries to Vardy and Mahrez,
that's the issue.
Then they might not. But again, I don't think. I think they're in. I don't know where they can finish this season. I don't think top 4 is out of the question, or I think definitely Europa League should be their target now. But
This year's Southampton, aren't they? To be perfectly honest.
And and Southampton were there for a while, and then eventually fell away predictably. And I think they were doing better than. Well, no, I think they were doing. Leicester. You couldn't really be doing better than Leicester are now. But I think look, for them to finish in the top 4, they need. So there's us, Tottenham, Liverpool, United, and City. That's 5 teams. They need 2 of us to completely collapse and fall away of those teams. I mean, and I think with Spurs and Liverpool, even though I don't think they're title challengers, you can look at them and say they're going to improve as the season goes on, and they're going to be in contention for that top 4 seriously. And Leicester, I think, will fall away. I think they're great fun. But going back to the managers, I just think we've missed the boat a little bit, which does scare me. And you never know. If Wenger leaves in 2 seasons, there might be another hotshot manager that has appeared out of nowhere that is the best fit for us. But for at the moment and for some time, it looked like that Klopp and Guardiola would be the 2 perfect fits for us. Guardiola, I think, will definitely go to City whenever he leaves Bayern, and I think, obviously Klopp's gone to Liverpool. I think the best thing we could hope for would be that Simeone decides to call it a day at Atletico and wants to try something new, and that we actually go in for him. Which I'm.
Do you think Do you think Simeone's character fits with Arsenal Football Club?
No.
Well, no. The thing I would say is that what Arsenal Football Club we're talking about? We're talking about under Wenger, because I'm only 23. I only know Wenger's Arsenal, so the identity I have of Arsenal is intrinsically linked with Wenger and his, So, and obviously I've seen.
Mark, I'll ask you a question, mate. Simeone rules by fear. Do you think these players that we have will want someone like that? I think some of them will relish it.
It doesn't matter what they want.
I think half of them will go. I think half of them will be like, I can't work under that.
But do you really think
with Wenger, they get away with murder? I think some of them.
Well,
Simeone won't stand for that.
Well, we've said for years it's the Colney crash, isn't it? As the nickname that's floated around for years. And yes, it won't be for some of them, and as you say, for others, it will bring out that extra 5-10% in their game. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I mean, I'm just thinking about. I mean, I like Simeone. I like the fact that he's a winner. And he kind of gets his teams playing in a particular way, and he makes sure that they kind of stick to it. He seems to cover a lot of bases. Yeah. I'm just wondering about his character, whether his character is something that would fit in with how the Arsenal board feel an Arsenal manager should be, and that's it goes back to what Callum said, that a lot of people have been very used to Arsene Wenger and the way he is. So Simeone might not fit the bill from that point of view. From a football manager point of view, I think the guy is a very, very good manager, and it'd be interesting to see him outside of Madrid given a chance in another league. It could work, it could all go disastrously wrong, who knows, but he could be one of the ones that might be available if with Klopp off the list, and with Guardiola maybe off the list, and Ancelotti as well. So we're talking summer 2017, who knows who's going to be around. I think certainly looking like Gary Monk's off the list, shall we say.
A few months ago I would have said Monk was, if he continues at the time when they were playing well and he was doing well, I thought everything I heard about him sounded brilliant. I thought he could be a real contender if he. But then I've also said, people were touting Brian Laudrup for a while, or Michael Laudrup, sorry, and he completely fell away at Swansea, and that's what Monk's doing now, which is a shame because I like the guy and I think he's got good methods. But he, it reminds me a lot of Martinez's Everton last year, which is they're great when everything's going well and they can knock the ball about, but as soon as things go wrong, they have no other option. They don't know what to do. They can't respond. But going back to Simeone, I think what I like the most about him is that what he's done with Atletico is not only compete with Barcelona and Real, he went and won the league. And I think whilst the gap between us and City and Chelsea and United in terms of resources isn't anywhere near as big, he's not coming in and taking over a club that we're not the biggest and richest club in this country. What we need is a manager who can look at the money. United will always have more money than us. City will always have more money than us. And he can look, and well, obviously we don't do too badly ourselves. I'm not trying to say anything about that, but I do feel like of all the managers you think of who could bridge that gap with a way of playing and a mentality, Simeone's the man, isn't he? I mean, of all the Guardiola as well, of course, but I think his attitude would be if the players got on board, and again, if they didn't, they'd be moved out and we'd get new players in. But there's very different styles of management. But I think the Atletico players do seem to love playing for him because they know that if they give their all, which you should want to do as a footballer at that level, you will be appreciated by him, by the fans, and you can get. He's shown what you can get in terms of success. You know, a league title.
There's another name. What about Luis Enrique?
Well, again, you don't know. It's so hard. It's hard
Enrique
to say.
Brings Messi with him.
In that case, I don't care who was manager. You could have Phil Brown bringing Messi with him. I'd take him. But look,
you talk about Luis Enrique. He's one of my childhood heroes, along with Guardiola. When I was younger, I loved both of them when I watched them play. But I don't know if I'm up for double denim at Arsenal just yet. I don't know if I'm ready for it yet. So I'll have to wait and see.
The issue with Enrique, and I think he doesn't get enough praise because I think a lot of people say, "Oh, Messi, Suarez, Neymar, anyone could do what they've done with them," and that is not completely true. I think there is some value in it, and I think because of that he gets undersold his value a lot. But at the same time, there is a question mark over how good he would be in another job, and he wouldn't be the top of my list anyway, I have to say. But really, I mean, the only outstanding candidates for me are Simeone and Guardiola, and I think in all likelihood we're not going to be able to get either of them, so we might have to look a bit left field, unfortunately.
Better start taking your badges, JJ.
Yeah. I don't think they want to work for me either. Well, I hope, Touch of Alexis, you've enjoyed that. That went a bit longer than I expected, but
it's going to be a great debate if Wenger ever just announces he's going to leave and gives us some time. We could dedicate.
Oh God, we'll have a 3-hour, 4-hour special. Yeah, we'll have everybody on. We'll grab everyone. But just quick before we wrap up, we got the midweek game against Olympiacos, and I'll pop the question: are we going to be smashing the plates, or are we going to be having comfort food off them? What's going to happen, guys? What do you think?
I think we'll lose.
Oh,
I just think it's a tough place to go, and we're struggling with injuries and fatigue, and we'll either lose or we'll draw. I don't think we'll win the game. I think we'll go out. That's just the feeling I have. I don't want to be negative, but that's just how I feel.
I think it'll be a very interesting game because it's a funny situation, and we saw it exactly the same last year with Monaco. That the Greeks, what do? Do they sit back and let us have the ball? Do they come at us, and try and get a goal, which makes it really difficult? It'll be very interesting. I don't know whether we'll lose, but I don't think we've got enough fit, match sharp players to go and do what we need to do. So unfortunately, I'm looking forward to playing Ajax and Astana and a whole host of other European teams on a Thursday night, which to me, I'm kind of very split on this. I was at the UEFA Cup final in 2000 and we all loved it. We all had a great time, or maybe not such a great time, but we all loved being in a European final. So I don't quite understand, and there's so much negativity around it. I can understand that there are certain reasons people, don't want it impacting our Premier League attempt. And the whole thing about playing on Thursdays and Sundays. Personally, I think we've spent so long taking the piss out of Tottenham that people can't quite bring themselves to understand that now we might be having to go and do that. But I think it'll be interesting to see what the reaction is. I hope we do what we need to do and we can go into the next round of the Champions League. I really do. But I think we may come up short, and we got absolutely no one else to blame except ourselves and those first two games, which would just killed us.
Yeah. Well, if I can, on that positive note, get a score prediction from you both.
What a negative note to finish on. I think
just do a madness if you want, Callum. Just do Arsenal going to win 12-0. You can do one of them if you like.
3-1 Olympiacos.
Oh.
They'll be 2-1 down. We'll be chasing. They'll nick one at the end, much like we did against Sunderland.
I will go 1-0.
See, I don't know why I've got the eternal optimist. I think we'll do it.
Look, I wouldn't be surprised if we did it. I think there's part of me that thinks that no one will get in the way of our annual last 16 exit, and that we might pull something out of nowhere just so we can get to the next round and lose. But I've kind of resigned myself to Thursday nights. So Olympiacos are no mugs, and we've been in this position before, albeit usually in the last 16 where we need to pull something out of our arse in the last minute. And I just find it difficult to see us winning. I think, as I said, with this weekend, I was watching us play and just thought, I don't fancy us to beat any team comfortably at the moment. And Olympiacos are a good team who've already done a number on us. We're missing Alexis and a host full of other players, and
yeah, that's the problem.
I don't know. I mean, it'd be great if Joel Campbell could at his old club step up and do something special, but I think it's gonna be a really tight game, and I just don't think we have the quality at the moment to make it count. But then Theo's back. Who knows? I really don't know. But I've kind of accepted Europa League football.
And then we can put it all to bed till February then anyway. And then I predict now that we will scrape through to the quarterfinals. We'll knock the Scousers out in the quarters. We'll knock the Scum out in the semis, and we'll beat United in Basel Wenger can lift the Europa League trophy, and then Guardiola will say he's available, and Wenger will go, has a good time for me to step down and let Guardiola take over. Bish, bash, whoosh.
Leave it at that.
And on that note, I'll wrap that up. So I'll say thank you to you, Mark.
No problem. Thank you very much for having me on again, JJ.
No worries.
You guys.
You're very welcome. And thank you to you, Callum, as well.
Oh, pleasure, mate. Thank you.
And just before we go as well, I'll just send our condolences from everyone at the podcast to Ernie, who sadly passed away yesterday. Going for 80 years home and away, reserve games, ladies' games. So everyone from the podcast sends our thoughts to Ernie's friends and family.
Yeah, definitely.
No worries. All right, well, that's been a Gooner Ramble. We'll be back probably Wednesday, maybe Thursday, to review the Olympiacos game, and we'll find out if we've smashed the plates or if we've ate the comfort food off them. Take care, everybody, and have a good few days since Wednesday. I've struggled to think of something funny to say there. So, yeah. Bye-bye.